In the quiet edges of the Andromeda frontier, far beyond map trade routes and civilized relay stations, lived a pair of human explorers, Sarah Halley and Jack Mercer. Their reputations in the interstellar research community were already impressive, but they were about to become legends for a reason no scientific model had ever predicted. They had come to the frozen world of Varin 6, a planet known for its white blizzards, floating ice plains, and just rumors of dwarf wild dragons. The last confirmed sighting had been 2 centuries ago, and no one believed the species still existed. But Sarah did. And Jack, as always, trusted Sarah's instincts more than any sensor readout. The frontier weather was merciless. Their dropship had crashed during descent, engines frozen mid-air by some unknown atmospheric anomaly. They barely survived, stumbling through the snow until they reached the half-collapsed shelter Sarah had built from emergency foam resin. Their son, Eli, only 9 months old, slept quietly inside, wrapped in thermal cloth, unaware of the storm screaming around them. On the 3rd night, the temperature plunged far below predicted values. The heater malfunctioned. The power cells froze. Jack tore apart equipment. Sarah kept Eli warm with body heat. But both knew the truth. If they couldn't heat the shelter before dawn, the baby wouldn't survive. Jack went into the storm to find anything scrap, fuel, a miracle. Sarah stayed in the shelter, whispering ancient earth lullabies to Eli. Hours passed. Jack didn't return, and then something unimaginable happened. A soft, scratching sound came from behind the shattered wall like crystal scraping ice. Sarah turned. Shielding Eli, 3 pale shapes emerged from the swirling snow, 3 albino dwarf wild dragons. Their scales glimmered like crushed diamonds, eyes glowing the palest gold. Each one stood no higher than Sarah's waist, yet there was nothing childish about them. These were apex predators, myths of the frontier creatures said to be as intelligent as scholars and as ruthless as winter itself. Sarah froze. The dragons sniffed, their breaths forming swirling white halos. One stepped forward, lowering its head, listening. As if sensing Sarah's fear, it blinked slowly and made a soft, warbling chirp, surprisingly gentle. Then it saw Eli. Sarah's heart jumped. She held her child tighter. But the smallest dragon approached with unbelievable delicacy. It sniffed Eli's blanket, then cooed. Yes, cooed. Like it recognized something older than species, something instinctive. Without warning, a rush of warm air flooded the shelter. The dragons circled the baby, their bodies glowing faintly. Heat radiated from their chest. They were warming him. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Every historical file said wild dragons feared humans. Some said they hunted them. But here they were, protecting her child. The 3 dragons curled around Eli, forming a living cocoon of warmth. Their wings folded like delicate lace around his sleeping form. And Eli, fragile, tiny, human, smiled in his sleep. It made no sense. It was impossible. And yet it was happening. Sarah watched through tears as Eli snuggled against one dragon's neck, his tiny fingers gripping a scaled ear like it was a toy. None of the dragons moved. They accepted him fully. Hours later, the storm broke. Jack stumbled back into camp, half frozen, carrying a fractured power cell and a handful of triumph. He stepped into the shelter, collapsed, and then frozen place. His human baby, was sleeping peacefully, surrounded by 3 mythical albino dwarf dragons, glowing like celestial guardians. Sarah, he whispered, voice cracking. Am I hallucinating? She shook her head slowly. They saved him, Jack. They saved all of us. Jack sat down, breathless. No video would ever convince anyone. No report would ever be believed. But the moment did not ask for witnesses. It asked for reverence. When Eli finally opened his eyes, the dragons lifted their heads in perfect unison. The smallest one nudged him with its crystal-sharp snout. Eli laughed pure. Innocent, pressed his forehead to the dragon's, human child had just performed an act of trust no adult in the galaxy would dare, and the dragons accepted. In that moment, something ancient shifted in the universe, a bond written in instinct, prophecy, or fate itself. Over the next days, The dragons guided Jack and Sarah to geothermal vents, taught them which snow crystals were safe to melt, and even hunted small frost hares to keep the family fed. They communicated not with words but through gesture, heat pulses, and shared breath. Sarah documented everything in trembling awe. Jack stayed close to Eli, who now sat comfortably between the dragons as if they were oversized pets rather than frontier legends. It didn't take long for the truth to become clear. The dragons weren't protecting Eli by accident. They had chosen him. Perhaps they sensed humanity's ancient ferocity. Perhaps they felt something in Eli's heartbeat, or perhaps they simply understood innocence when they saw it. 3 weeks later, rescue patrol finally reached Varin 6. The moment they landed, the dragons retreated into the mist, but not before each one touched Eli's chest with its snout, leaving 3 faint, shimmering marks like silver constellations. The rescue team stared, speechless. A human infant had slept with 3 wild dragons and survived. More than survived, he had been adopted. News spread across sectors within hours. Cultures that once mocked human fragility now reconsidered. No species dared to claim superiority over a race whose infants could befriend dragons older than empires. Historians called it the Varina Accord. Scientists called it impossible. Sarah and Jack simply called it a miracle. But Eli? He grew up believing the dragons were just friends. And far away on the frozen plains of Varin 6, 3 pale guardians still waited, watchful, ancient, loyal, hoping one day the human child they saved would return.